See, just waiting for a few people to come in. Hello, tell us where you're coming in from. You're joining us, 4 p.m. in California. Where are you at? What time is it? So just a heads up, guys, I didn't get to walk my puppy today, so you might hear him. Just ignore him. I do. New York. It's 7 p.m. there, right? 7 p.m. NYC. Palmdale, California. Hi. Hello. Where are you guys from? South Africa. So cool. What time is it in South Africa? LA. Awesome. So anyone from LA or like Pacific time, anyone still at work? 1 a.m. in South Africa. My gosh. Thank you for joining us. That's amazing. Portugal. What time is it over there? I really need to like get a world clock on. New York is really here. Indiana, Cayman Islands, 6 p.m. Okay. Detroit. Boston, New Jersey, UK. It's so cool to like connect with brothers and sisters from all over the world. Like, it's so cool. 11 p.m. in the UK. Thank you for staying up with us. Germany. We've only been to the, what do you call it? Airport in Germany, but it was really nice. Jamaica, London. Let's see, what else do we have here? NYC is really here. More Jamaica, Boston. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm like super excited to dig into this right now. Hi. Chicago. I want to go to Chicago so bad. More UK. It's so awesome. You guys are like troopers. You really are. All right, so today we're going to jump in with prayer first, guys. All right. Father, thank you so much for letting us get together and dig into your word. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I've learned. Lord, help me say what you want me to say, to distinguish my mere opinion, because I do have lots of opinions. Keep them in check. Help me dig into your word with what you want me to say. And I thank you for everyone on this call. May they hear what you need them to hear. Amen. All right, so today we're talking about Delilah. This was really fascinating. I really liked this story. I really liked reading the story. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed a little bit. It's just because humans and our sin nature were so absurd. The scenario, I don't understand why or how God puts up with us. Like, he is so amazing. Okay, so Delilah, her name is, it said that when I first looked it up, it was Dainty One, but as I spoke to my associate pastor yesterday, he also told me that her name is Devotee and Worshipper. So I thought that was cool and worth mentioning. Take out your Bibles, guys, if you can. This is going to be Bible heavy today. I'm going to be reading a lot just because the story as it's written is so amazing. And you can learn so much from it. And we are in Judges 16. So the first thing I want to address is that this is kind of one of those stories like that we hear a lot, that we know, that we've learned in Sunday school. And I wanted to focus on how important it is to read it for ourselves. For example, I always thought that Delilah is a prostitute. And even in my book, if you weren't here last week, I'm reading through Women of the Bible. It's a book, it's a Bible study like guide. It has questions and a few facts. You know, says that she's a harlot, nationality unknown, and yeah, so that's something I always believed, right? Like it was just one of those facts, you know. However, in reading it, we're in Judges 16. It says, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute and went to bed with her. When the Gazites heard that Samson was there, they surrounded the place and waited in ambush for him all night at the city gate. So that's 16, 1 and 2. I'm going to scroll down to 4. It says, sometime later, he fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in Sorek Valley. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like he is talking about the same person. Like, first he was in Gaza, and he was with a prostitute, and then now he is in Sorek Valley, and he fell in love with a woman named Delilah. Now, I'm not saying I don't know her profession. I'm just saying it's always, like, Delilah was always associated with being a prostitute. And I had one of those, like, you know, when you first find out it's not an apple, like Eve didn't eat an apple, she ate a fruit. We don't know it's an apple. We just assume it's an apple. You know, we assume there's 3 wise men. So I had one of those moments when I was reading it, like, she could be a prostitute, you know, like, clearly she's not of good moral standing, like Samson, you know, like they're in sin. But we don't know. We actually don't actually know if she is a prostitute or not. Like, it's still likely, but we don't know. And I just thought that was like a cool, this is why you need to read the Bible yourself. Don't take whatever anyone says, you know, don't take other people's words. Take the Bible, read the Bible. It doesn't change much of the story, but that's what I got out of it. Like, oh, I really should be reading these stories myself. And yeah, so moving on. So sometime later, he fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in Sorek Valley. The Philistine leaders went to her and said, persuade him to tell you where his great strength comes from, so we can overpower him, tie him up, and make him helpless. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So it doesn't say how many there are, but each one of them is going to give her 1,100 pieces of silver. So that's a lot of pieces of silver for her. If she were to find out how Samson gets his strength and how they can overpower him. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, okay? So Delilah went to Samson. Listen to what she says. Please tell me, where does your great strength come from? How can someone tie you up and make you helpless? Like, they asked her, hey, try to figure it out. And she wasn't even sly about it. She went straight up to Samson and was like, bro, how do I take you down? Like, I read that and I was like, wow, she wasn't even like, she was like super gutsy. She wasn't even like sly about it. She wasn't like, oh, so you're really strong, like abnormally strong. How did you get like that? No, she was like, how does someone take you down? Tell me. Like, talk about bold. So that's really what I want to focus on, is how Delilah has really good, amazing qualities, except she kind of uses them in a bad way. Like, that is super cool and super bold. She knew what she wanted. She went and asked him, but what she wanted wasn't a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, her attributes were great, but her intention, not so much. So, and it, like, this is why I started laughing. Like, this gets good. Samson told her, if they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I will become weak and be like any other man. Now remember, Samson is like abnormally strong. He gets severe strength given by God. Like, he has godly strength. It's divine. It's not a normal person's strength. So that's what he means by be like any other man. The Philistine leaders brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied him up with them. While the men were in ambush, waiting in her room, she called out to him, "Samson, the Philistines are here." He snapped the bowstring's strand, and the yarn snaps when it touches the fire. The secret of his strength remained unknown. Okay, so if you're Samson, you're like, clearly he's lying. Like, he knows where he gets his strength from. And he knows he's lying. But he told Delilah, this is what makes me strong. And then she used exactly that. And obviously it didn't work because that's not what makes him strong. But to me, it was just like, he lied. And he knows he lied. And so she was the only one who had this like fictional information, like these facts. So clearly she was the one who betrayed him, right? And this is her response to the fact that it didn't work. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me and told me lies. Won't you please tell me how you can be tied up?" Like, she gave him attitude, guys. Like, she was like, "You lied to me?" She went and betrayed him, and she was just like, "You lie." She was the one upset. She was like, "Really? You're mocking me now? Like, you think this is a joke? I asked you a serious question." And like, okay, that, to me, that's really brave. Like, wow, Delilah, you can't use that kind of courage for, you know, helping someone or going forth on some sort of endeavor. Like, I wish I had that guts. Like, I wish someone lied to me, and I, like, even when someone lies to me and I wasn't deceiving them, I still wouldn't have the strength or courage to go up to them and be like, "Seriously? Like, why would you lie to me? Like, I thought you were in love with me." You know, like, I don't have that strength when I'm not in the wrong. I can't understand how she, like, got up that courage. And, like, I'm sorry, like I said, so, like, the scenario is so ridiculous to me that the pride is just so high up in here. Like, okay. And it gets better. His response is a second lie. He said, "If they tie me up with new ropes that have never been used, I will become weak and like any other man." Like, he ain't even mad at her. Like, I really wish I knew what Samson was thinking. You know, like, if I went up to someone and said, "Hey," sorry, I'm like all over the place. Okay, so I said that she was deceiving him, which me and my husband were kind of discussing this yesterday. I don't know if I would use the word deception. Like, she went up to him and said, "Hey, how do I take you down?" And then used it. Like, that, it's rude, it's selfish, it's abusive. I don't know if I would say deceiving. I think saying that Delilah deceived Samson is kind of giving Samson an out, like, "Oh, he was deceived by Delilah." Was he, though? She said, "How do I take you down?" and then used it. And when that was a lie, she was like, "Really? How do I really take you down?" And then he kept giving her answers, like, you know, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me," kind of thing. I don't understand why after, I think, 2 times, why did he go and tell her? Yes, I agree. This is, like, you lied to her. It's a clear lie. You know, like, if I told someone my favorite color is green, and it's not, like, it's clearly, if anyone knows me, they know my favorite color is purple. But if I told Bob my favorite color is green, and then Sally came and bought me a green present and was like, "I just wanted you to have your favorite color," I'm gonna know that she got her information from Bob because I lied to Bob. You know what I mean? So it's not like Samson didn't know it was Delilah, unless he was walking around telling everyone this lie. So yeah, so that was the second time. Like, this is the second time he lies to her. And she does the same thing. Delilah took new ropes, tied him up with them, and shouted, "Samson, the Philistines are here." But while the men in ambush were waiting in her room, he snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me all along and told me lies. Tell me how you can be tied up." Like, wow. Seriously? Wow. This is what I mean by like this situation is so absurd. Like, for one, I don't know what is going on in Samson's head. I wish I did. I am dying to know, like, how are you still talking to this woman? And then two, my gosh, she's bold. Like, the last time I saw someone this bold was my niece, who was 3 years old at the time, 2 to 3 years old, who got in trouble and in her tears from being in trouble, looked at her mom and was like, "I want chocolate." And I was like, seriously, you're asking for a favor right now? That's what Delilah reminds me of right now. Like, super childish boldness that was just like, I don't care. I want what I want. Like, I want my 1,100 pieces of silver of from each person. Tell me how to take you down. Like, I'm surprised she didn't even tell him that. Like, I'm honestly surprised she didn't say, "Hey, I'm going to get paid for this. So can you do this? Can you do me a favor and tell me how to take you down?" Let's pause, see if anyone has any questions or comments. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me another after time, I'm just a fool apparently. Yeah, I agree. I think he was in love. He just wasn't thinking. I agree. It does say that Samson fell in love with Delilah. So that's a good lesson. Just because you're in love doesn't mean you should stop thinking. Or lust. Yeah, it could be lust too. We don't know. It does say he fell in love with her. So I don't know. I don't know what his desire towards Delilah was, but I do know that either way, it's not like it's not okay to act like this. Love is forgiving, but I don't believe it's blind. Yes, I agree. Love is definitely forgiving, but not blind. But even with someone you love, wouldn't you be mad about them trying to play you? Exactly. Like, I don't understand how Delilah is so upset. Like, you deceived me. Why are you coming at me? It's kind of like when a guy gets caught cheating and then he was like, "You went through my phone." You were cheating. Like, like, come on. And why Samson hasn't asked, "Why are you doing this?" Yeah, I don't know. I'm dying to know what's going on in Samson's head right now. Like, what is happening? Like, okay, so Delilah could be beautiful, but really, that's not a good enough reason. Yeah, he's smitten, but that's not a good enough reason. Like, I really want to know what's going on through his head that he would let her keep doing this to him. Because so far she's done it twice. But there will be a third. Just because you're in love does not mean you stop thinking, right? Delilah was a master manipulator and gold digger. Was she a master manipulator though? Because I think if she had went to him and was like, "I love you so much. I wish you would like confide in me. Tell me how, like, where you get your strength. It's not normal." She didn't say any of that. She said, "Hey, I want to know how someone could tie you up." And then tied him up for the Philistines. Like, that's not really manipulating. She was kind of very straightforward about it. And don't get me wrong, her intentions, her behavior is terrible. I just don't think it was manipulative because, and this is where my mere opinion comes in. I don't believe she was manipulative. I think that's giving Samson an out. I do think she was cunning. I do think she was abusive. I do think she was very, very selfish. Like, she didn't care what would happen to Samson, the guy that's like they're supposedly in love. She didn't care. All she cared about was the money. So I do think she is all of that. I think being like, "Oh, she's a master manipulator," it's kind of giving Samson an out. I love the emphasis you put on that her attribute towards boldness is a good thing, but how she used it was a problem. Yeah, and we see that all through history, guys. Like Hitler, that's a big one. He had great qualities. He was a good public speaker. He was charismatic. but how he used that to his own advantage, to his evil thoughts and actions, totally bad. So just because you have a gift doesn't, God gives you the gift, it's your responsibility to use it for him, to use it for good, to use it to help people. And yeah, like gifts can go either or. We do have a responsibility for the gifts that God gave us, which is, I think, the main point of this story. As far as it's the main point of the story from Delilah's point of view. It's not the main point of the story from Samson's point of view. Let's move on because the comments are already moving on towards where we're going. So let me read and then we'll get to these comments. Okay. So then he lies to her again. He said 7 braids. If you weave the 7 braids on my head into a web of loom. She fastened the braids with a pen and called him. Samson, the Philistines are here. He woke up from his sleep and pulled out the pen with the loom and the web. And then that's when she gets really upset. And she's like, how can you say you love me when your heart is not with me? Really, his heart is not with you? His heart is not with you. You've just tried to betray him 3 times now, and his heart's not with you. Come on, woman. I always wonder, like, is she so, does she realize what she's doing? Because it's almost to the point where her pride and her evil thoughts are so taken over. Does she realize what she's doing? Like, really? She's accusing him of not, he's letting her abuse him. If anything, he's too much in love, if that's such a thing. So maybe it is less, because I don't think love would act like that. This is the 3rd time you've mocked me and told me what makes your strength, and not told me what makes your strength great. So, and someone did point this out to the comment, and it says, Judges 16:16, because she nagged him day after day and pleaded with him until she wore him out. Which takes me, guys, to Proverbs 21:9. Give me 1 second to get there. Proverbs 21:9. It is better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. That's how bad it is. And someone did comment saying her nagging got to him and can't stand nagging. Yes, her nagging is terrible. Nagging clearly gets bad things going, right? Don't be that girl. There's just, nagging is not the way to go about getting what you want, especially in such an abusive way. Like, to me, the way she nagged him must have been like super, super abusive, because she wants to take him down. Like, not only is the action bad, but the intent behind it is even worse. Nagging. Hold on a sec. What Samson did isn't something we never done. We see the red flags and keep dealing with people that hurt us. Yes, I agree. Repeat which scripture? The Proverbs scripture? I'll try that. Proverbs 21:9, better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a nagging wife. If that's the scripture you wanted me to repeat, it's Proverbs 21:9. Yeah, I agree. I do. Like I said, the point, what I like about this story is it's so complex. There's looking at Delilah's point of view and then looking at Samson's point of view. So yes, I agree. When we're studying the story in a Samson way, yeah, we do see the red flags. And we just keep going over and over and over again, and we keep making the same mistakes. But looking from a Delilah point of view, which is what we're focusing on today, it's the responsibility of what God gave us. Is what I feel like we learn most from Delilah. Is God gives you these great attributes. Like, she is a strong woman, but she uses it for so much bad. Like she is like completely selfish about it. All right, we're going to move on. And so that's at that point she wears him out. He tells her, "It's my hair." She cuts it off, and yeah. So we're moving a little forward because this is really where Delilah ends. Once his hair is cut off. Okay, so I'm not going to dig too much into this. My book kind of highlights things about the life and times back then and how we can contribute it to us today. So it was very interesting. It just talks about how much hair is recognized in the Old Testament. It was a really big thing. But one thing that I did find interesting, it says, often in the Old Testament, writers described living to an old age, so old that their hair turned gray as a mark of God's favor and blessings. And then it quoted two verses, Proverbs 16:31, which says, "Gray hair is a glorious crown. It is found in the way of righteousness." So I never knew that. I never thought of like, oh, gray hair means we got to live old enough to have gray hair. Like, that's really cool. I never thought of it as a blessing, which is sad because it is true. And it's even sadder for me because my mom loves gray hair for that reason. And it took me this long to listen to her. And then it also says Proverbs 20:29, "The glory of young men is their strength, and the splendor of old men is their gray hair." So I just thought that was a cool, fun fact, and a little encouragement for gray hair. But this part I did like. It says, "In our life and times, women today spend millions of dollars cutting, coloring, perming, and styling their hair. But remember, no amount of money and primping covers the lack of inner beauty. Before arranging your hair into becoming style, be sure to arrange your spirit into becoming demeanor. Then you'll be beautiful outside and in." So basically, it's not saying, let's put this loud and clear, first of all, it is not saying there's anything wrong with coloring, cutting, and dyeing your hair, or perming it. It's just saying, make sure when you do that you're also working on your inside. Don't just focus on your hair. Don't just focus on your makeup. Just be sure to take care of who's inside, so you can match your outward appearance, which I believe Delilah lacked. Like, I think it's safe to say that she was a beautiful woman, and she completely had Samson head over heels. She completely had him, like, in what's the word I'm looking for? Like, really into her, right? Like, he was super head over heels for her. But her inside, she never, she didn't care about what's inside. And like, that was important. Let me stop for a few comments because we got quite a few on Instagram here. It says he wasn't supposed to be with a Philistine, so it's more of disobedience, and obedience is better to sacrifice. His disobedience ultimately led to his death. I agree. Again, there's 2 points. There's not 2 points. There's 2 ways to study the story, and that is definitely a Samson way of studying the story. That's why he cracks, because it's like she keeps pushing that you don't love me if you did that, which is sort of like what people do to get their way. Yeah, like I said, it's very abusive. The way she nagged is very abusive. Hey, the nagging worked though. Yes, but that's actually a question that I'm going to go over. It says, if you ever nagged someone to do something, how did you feel when you finally got what you wanted? So yeah, she nagged him and she got what she wanted, but in what extent? Like, Samson dies, guys. Like, she ultimately killed him by her nagging. Her nagging was so bad. She got her money finally, but you know, the guy that she's been with for quite a while, because it says she nagged him day after day after day. Like, she's been with him for a while, and he died. She didn't care about him dying, did she? I don't know. After they cut off his hair, we don't know. Delilah's gone. Like, I have no idea. Clearly she didn't, right? So yeah, her nagging worked, but she was someone who didn't care about him. So do you want to be someone who doesn't care about your husband or anyone else you're nagging? Like, if you care about this person, you shouldn't be nagging them. If she didn't care about that, then yeah, she got what she wanted, the money. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she got what she wanted. She got the money. But if she didn't care about him, then that's not a very good way of living, you know? Okay, so I'll put it this way. Nagging's okay towards people you don't care about, but you shouldn't not care about someone. We are called to love. We are called to care. You should never not care about someone enough to nag. So it doesn't matter that nagging works. You know, like thievery works. Doesn't mean you can go steal stuff. You know, like a lot of bad things work, but it doesn't make them okay. Let's see what we have here. She had him mesmerized. Right. Because she cared most about her outward appearance instead of her inward appearance, and we should learn from that into taking care of both. To nag or to not nag, that is the question. And it's a very easy answer. Moving forward. So what are Samson's strengths and his weaknesses? I'm guessing he had a weakness for beauty and lust. What are Delilah's strengths and weaknesses? She's definitely bold. Like I said, I was kind of amazed at how bold she is, how strong she is. Like, there's no doubt that she was no damsel in distress. She was a really strong woman. She just wasn't a strong woman of God, you know? And I know for one, that's who I strive to be. Like, yeah, I want to be strong. Like, yeah, girl power. But if I'm not doing it for the Lord, then what's the point? Her weakness is definitely pride and selfishness. You know, all she cared about was the money, which is sad because, like I said, it's clear that she was with him for a while. So even if she wasn't a prostitute, wasn't she kind of, though? Because she was just staying with him to try to get the money from taking him down. So she was kind of selling herself in a way, right? Let's see. I think that's... Okay, so this is kind of sums it together. Why do you think the story of Delilah is important? What can she teach us? And who finally wins in the story? So we've kind of dabbled in this. I think the importance of the story of Delilah is that we have a responsibility to everything that God gives us. Just because we can do something, just because we are able to do something, doesn't mean we should. To really pause and question our actions, question our motives. Like, why am I doing this? Like, will doing fraudulent things work? Yes, it'll work, but for what reason? And what is the long-term impact on others? What is the long-term impact on your soul? You have to take care of your relationship with God and who you are and follow his commandments than to get temporary relief or temporary desires. Like, how long did that money last her until she went on to the next fool to play, you know? So I think that's what is important. I think that's what it teaches us. And who finally wins in the story? So who finally wins in the story? It's definitely God, because so I'm going to sum up before I read. After Delilah shaves off Samson's head, the Philistines come in. He has no strength. In fact, it says that the Lord left him. When not only his strength, the Lord left him because he did disobey. And so once his strength left and he was helpless, the Philistines took him. They tied him up, and at the end, he waited till they were drunk, it says, and he asked them if he can lean on a pillar, and then he prayed for his strength back, and God temporarily gave him his strength back enough to pull off the pillar, and then the whole place went crumbling down, killing way more Philistines than he did when he was alive, and killed himself too. So ultimately God won, but it did take down Samson. So yeah, I'm going to open this up for discussion, more discussion. Any comments? Clear her weakness is money. Yes. Yeah. I think money is just like, why does she want money? I don't think she was giving it to charity. I think her weakness is herself. Like, she's just full of herself, and with money you can buy yourself a whole bunch of stuff. So I think it's more than money. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not the money itself, it's the love of it, which ultimately comes from pride, wanting to take care of yourself. Anything else? She was definitely a gold digger, yeah, which kind of goes with her love for money. I feel like we could all be like Delilah in that we can use people and hurt them. In the end, we have to daily question motive and where our spirit is. Yes, 100%. I totally agree. And everything we do, like, why are we doing this? Like, especially in relationships, but even at work, making sure that what we do it diligently, because we know there's ways to harm work, and there's ways to harm relationships. And are we using and abusing the system in any way, and what our motives are in doing so? All right, any other questions, comments? And I said this last week, and I'll say it again. If you study the Greek version and you're into ministry and there's something that I said was wrong, please, I'm tagged in all of the posts. Tell me, and I will rephrase. No, darling, there wasn't any temporary strength being restored. It was a while before they had that party, and he was taken to the temple. So by then, some of his hair would have regrown. The covenant was he would get strength if he never cut his hair, because otherwise he would just cut his hair and let it regrow back, and then cut his hair and let it regrow back for his strength. It says he prayed for it, and that's when he got it back. Sorry, my legs just went to sleep really bad. But it says, Judges 16:28, he called out to the Lord, Lord, please remember me, strengthen me. God, just once more, with one act of vengeance, let me pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And then Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars supporting the temple and leaned against them, one on his right hand and the other on his left. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the leaders with all the people in it. All the dead he killed at his death were more than he had killed in his life. So he prayed for his strength back. He prayed for that to happen. We are given all this authority and assignment as women through God, then reduce ourselves for man's use. Reminder to remain a tool in God's hands. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many God-given talents out there, and it's we need to give it back to him. Yes, it did go back, but it did go back when he was chained up. He prayed before the party. Yeah, his hair did grow back, but it doesn't say as his hair grew back, he got his strength back. It said as he prayed, he got his strength back. Because like I said, the original covenant was to not cut his hair, and it was broken. Where the enemy will have less opportunity to make an example of us. Yes, so if we use our talents, sorry, because I jump back and forth. Back to this person's original comment about using our gifts for God to use as a tool for God's hands will make us less an opportunity for the enemy to make an example of us, and I agree. All right, so that seems to be it. Thank you guys again for joining me. I will see you next week. Yes, I will see you next week, next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Feel free to leave comments. Feel free to hit me up for questions or concerns.